We are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Nerdin' Out Sports. It is Rob and Donald, and today we are breaking down the 2022 New York Giants draft class. If you didn't see our reactions to round one, go back and check that out because it was a fun night. Yeah, I don't know if Donald's dried off yet from that, but it was it was a fun night indeed. Obviously, the Giants had a really good first round, getting both Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal attacking positions of need, and also getting what many would consider best players available at their particular picks. So before we get down to a pick by pick breakdown, Donald, what were your thoughts about the draft overall?
So day one, I think, was a home run. And to be honest, that was the most important day for the franchise. And normally, people say that you win with your picks in the later rounds, day two, day three, and all that stuff. But from the way that the Giants really needed to build a foundation, they really needed to set a marker down as to their foundational pieces, and they got that. And football is won in the trenches. And they fixed the O line, they fixed the D line, basically in day one. And for me, day one makes it a home run. I think we'll discuss day two and day three in this stream. But I view day one as an A plus, and to be honest, that was the most important day for me. I think that we went I think day two, I was a little unsure about. I think there was a few reaches in there. Day three was pretty solid though, and all in all, if you look at the consensus, most experts have the Giants with an A minus right through the draft. So I think that's a great example that it was a very solid draft from Joe Shane's very first draft. I think the Giants should be delighted, but for me, it was all about day one. I mean, Jerry Jones already had that his top two players on the entire draft board was Evan Neal and Thibodeau. So there's a lot of people saying that those were the two best players in the actual NFL draft, and we got them 5 and 7, which is crazy value. So that's why it was an A plus home run. But we'll get into day two and day three as we proceed.
Yeah, I agree completely. About day one, I think it was just a slam dunk. You can't complain if you're a Giants fan. You wanted an edge rusher, you got arguably the best one. You can put him and Hutchinson right there, neck and neck. Who's the best edge rusher of the draft? And if you wanted the best offensive lineman, well, I think we got him. For me, it was either him or Iquanu that I really, really wanted. I was definitely in on Charles Cross, but at the end of the day, I was like, if we get one of those guys and one of the edge rushers, you're hitting a major home run. And Joe Shane, I think, for draft number one, deserves the benefit of the doubt of let's wait and see. Because on day two, I'm kind of in agreement on you there. There was some picks that I think that were maybe head scratchers. But I'm going to play the wait and see approach. I think Joe Shane at this point and his staff, they've at least earned that because it's their first draft. And we've been through some pretty rough times in terms of past GMs. But I don't think there's really much to say about day one. We know what we're getting. But day two is really the topic of conversation. Obviously, we got Wan'Dale Robinson in the second round after a couple of trade downs. I know your thought on this. You weren't too high on the pick.
I just think that he's a little undersized. And also, I had better receivers on the board too. I think Sky Moore was on the board. I would have considered him. I liked a few guys. I like Dobbs, where Green Bay picked him. Pickens, I like Pickens too. They're different types of receivers than Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson's more of a gadget player, but his I can see why the Giants drafted him. I just think that he could have been he was probably available in round 3. However, we don't know that for sure because the league were overdrafting at this point. Once we got into day 2, the league was overdrafting for receivers big time. There was receivers that I would have expected to go round 3, round 4 that were going in the second round, and so maybe that forced things to change. I have an idea that obviously we traded down the first time, accrued an extra fifth. The trade down the second time was a little risky because it was a big drop from where we dropped from. I believe it was 38 to, was it 43?
Yeah,
It was
around there.
yeah, it was a bit of a drop, and we lost out on, for me, which would have been the best cover corner that was still available at the time, and from Clemson, I believe it was Booth. That I believe that we should have. I think we probably should have stayed where we were when we traded down from the Jets. Stayed there and selected that corner, because we now know what's happening with Bradbury. He's almost certainly going to be released because no one really viewed him as a trade target because they knew that the Giants financially couldn't afford to keep him anyway. So why attach draft picks to a guy that is probably going to be cut? And that's where we're probably going to be very, very soon. So in that respect, I think the Giants should have been a little bit more aggressive in getting corner ASAP in the second round. They didn't choose that direction. Okay, so they went Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, let's focus more on his positives. He's super fast. He's super elusive. He is a playmaker. And he's shown decent route running, actually, for someone who's so inexperienced as a receiver, considering he's only been a receiver for 1 year. There's a lot of things to work with. He's a gadget player, so the Giants are really focusing on these kind of gadget-type players. Obviously, they've already got one in Tony. They've got him as well. I'm not quite sure what the plan is to have two gadget players in the same offense, but okay. I mean, what I'll trust is that Joe Schoen really wanted to get a type of playmaker that Daboll likes in his system. They have got that in Wan'Dale Robinson, and listen, we'll just have to go with it. He's certainly highly rated, and people like him. It's just I think he was a little bit of a reach, but I understand because I think the whole NFL were kind of doing that in day two anyway. But if I had my personal choice, I would have gone defensive back there, and in the second round, someone that's more like an automatic starter. Wan'Dale Robinson will probably need a little bit of work. You'll certainly need some extra coaching. You'll probably need to bulk up a little bit. He's very small, but he plays bigger than his size. So there's a lot of things to like about him. I would have gone third round on him. Or, you know what, I would have just gone and drafted Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore or Pickens would have been a really nice pick there, because I do understand where they were going with why they were kind of thinking receiver is more of a priority than the Giants fans are giving it credit for. I do agree with them, actually. I do think that receiver was a priority, but not my favorite receiver, but very, very good. And I'm sure he's going to be a really nice option. Most important thing is Daboll's happy, and he's going to be able to work with him for sure.
No, I was kind of, guess I'll use the word confused as to why we took a receiver in the second, because I thought the earliest they'd go receiver was the third.
Yeah.
But the more I watched highlights and tape on Robinson, the more I was like, okay, this is a good pick. And at first I'm like, okay, gadget player. But then when you watch him and you look at his numbers from last year, that's not a gadget player. That's just a receiver. 94 receptions, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, average 97 yards a game. What he's able to do with the ball in his hands after the catch is very, very good. And he's quick. And I remember watching that Saints game last year, and I was like, imagine if we had 2 Kadarius Tonys. And now we kind of do. So, I mean, I like the pick after a lot more research on the player, because I wasn't even looking at receiver in the second round. So I was basically not even checking on receivers that were going to be available until round 3, round 4. So I skipped right over Wan'Dale Robinson, a lot of these other receivers. But it's clear that Daboll and Schoen, they want to give Daniel Jones every possible kind of playmaker to succeed, because now you have 2 electric receivers with the ball in their hands after the catch. You have the deep threat down the field to go up and get it, receiver and Galladay. And I think this means a lot of good things for Kenny Galladay, because if you're a defense, you got a game plan for what are they going to do with Wan'Dale Robinson? How much pre-snap motion is there going to be with him and Kadarius Toney? Who's lining up where? You still got to worry about Saquon Barkley in the backfield. And Sterling Shepard, if he does play, is still another guy you have to keep your eye on, because he's just so consistent in his route running and he's very good at catching the ball. He's just a consistent receiver. So defenses have to really game plan who's going to be where. Where's Robinson? Where's Toney? Where's Barkley? And then that could open up things for Galladay. So the weapons are there. The opportunities are there for Jones. And Robinson he's just coming off of a really good year. And some would say he's even more fleshed out in route running more than Toney was. And Toney was a receiver for a little bit longer. So, I mean, we're hearing good things coming out of camp for Kadarius Toney. So Pat Leonard, take that. You were wrong once again. And now we're going to pair him up with Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm excited. I really, really like the pick. Upon further just looking at tape more, I'm excited to see what this offense can do. And now it's squarely on the shoulders of the quarterback.
Dable already made use of a similar type receiver in Isaiah McKenzie. They're probably viewing this as quite similar. They're certainly similar kind of size and body, and certainly the kind of traits what you would expect. My kind of question, though, is they're obviously going to do a lot of screens and kind of pre-snap motion, and it's going to be a different kind of offense than we're certainly used to, which is great. It's going to be a little bit more modern.
Yes,
modern. I was just moving to it there. It's going to be a modern offense. However, Daniel Jones has never really been the best at pre-snap reads, and he's never really been the best at short accuracy. I can name right off the top of my head the number of times where he's thrown Saquon Barkley short and screens, and he's overthrown receivers right in front of him. He's shown more of a penchant to being a deep ball guy. He's got a beautiful accuracy, deep ball. Short accuracy and pre-snap reads is not his strength. From the tape that I've watched, he should be better at it. Now, maybe he'll get this fixed with better coaching with Kafka and Dable, who are great quarterback guys. But for me to have that kind of offense where it's all about like pre-snap reads and motion offense and short screens and things like that, is that his strength necessarily? I think he's more of a deep ball guy for me. I would have maybe gone with a bigger receiver in that range where, like, for instance, Dobbs can go get it deep, and he's got a little bit of a bigger frame, in my personal opinion. So it's just, I think Daniel Jones likes bigger targets that can go up and get the ball. What do you say about that?
I mean, obviously you would think that's the case. We just didn't see it last year because the offense that we ran was 1960s, 1970s style. So I mean, it was so outdated. We never really got to see anything from Daniel Jones. And I don't want to keep giving the guy excuses because I just said this is now on his shoulders. Everything this offense does is going to be based around the quarterback now because there are zero excuses. And that's what I said after this pick. The weapons are there. Assuming everybody's healthy, the weapons are there. The line is there. The running back is there. I think even the tight ends are there. I mean, everything is lining up for the quarterback to be successful. And with a new offense, a modernized offense that's going to be able to move the ball down the field, hopefully quickly with a lot of speed, the Giants are going to be a very fast offense. That's how you win in the NFL today. You have to just always been, you have to outscore your opponent. But nowadays, it's just how many more points are you going to get if you're getting into the 30s? The Giants couldn't score 30 points at all the last few years. It was a pipe dream to get that close. And now you have to be able to move the ball quickly. You have to be able to, just be fast and hope that you can outrun your opponent. It's a different offense. The game has evolved, and the Giants have taken a while to evolve with it, and they're finally taking that approach. So drafting a guy like Robinson pairing him with Tony, having Galladay, who's that kind of old school, I guess you can say, receiver that's going to go up and get it. And let's not forget Daniel Jones is kind of a modernized quarterback, the guy that can throw it deep and he can still run, so he can utilize his legs. I just think they used it too much last year and in the years past is trying the read options and then take off, and it was almost like unless he took off for about 20 yards, the defense could see it coming. But it's all on Jones now. With this pick, just tells me they're putting everything on Daniel Jones. So if he doesn't have
a huge reach, I mean, he was viewed as kind of a mid to late third. I
don't think it was a huge reach. I was just
second
confused.
isn't awful, and his skill set will certainly translate in the NFL. He plays bigger than his size, and he's fast, and he's actually shown in his tape that he actually can take the deep ball. He's got some traits there as a decent route runner. So if you're looking at the positives, it's certainly not an awful pick at all. And I think he could actually be very, very good. And as I say, we did kind of need receiver, because if you look at our wide receiver situation, we did need a receiver.
Yeah.
Galladay's obviously had a terrible year one. I think he's going to have a much better year two, but slightly overpaid. I think we can probably agree on that. Slayton, we could probably do with his getting rid of his cap money, because he's going to cost us $2 million on the cap. We probably could cut him right now, and quite honestly, but he's certainly not going to be here long term. Shepard's coming off a huge injury. We managed to get a really good discount on him, but he's injured concerns all the time. Very good receiver, but he's probably going to be not long as a Giant either. Then there's Tony, talented guy, concerns about his maturity and whether he could be relied upon long term for the Giants. But even if you put that aside and he turns into everything that we hope he is, that's just one other guy other than Wan'Dale Robinson that you're going to be assured of long term. So I think that it was a smart bet to get a receiver, and we hope it's the right one. I personally liked other receivers, but he's got all the skill sets that you'd want, all the traits that you want. So now we go to 67, Ezeudu, guard / tackle from North Carolina. What do you think?
He's a lineman. The guy played tackle and guard in the same drive at some point last year, which is unheard of. And I think this is the kind of player that Joe Judge would actually love because of the way he was shifting the offensive line around the last couple of years. But this tells me that the Giants are going to have some different looks on that line. I mean, it's entirely possible that they try something similar to where maybe on a certain drive, Evan Neal is playing guard and Ezeudu moves out to tackle. I mean, there could be a time at some point this year where Neal and Thomas are playing right next to each other, which that would be interesting. But Ezeudu is a guy that could start day one at left guard because our offensive line kind of needed a left guard. We were pretty much going to go in-house competition at this point with Ezeudu, Lemieux if he's healthy. We did sign Garcia. So that'd probably be the competition there. What is up to TD? Let's go Giants. Smart take, guys. Good chemistry. Thank you.
Yo, TD. Thank you, man.
And we appreciate you watching. Let's go Giants. We are breaking down the draft here. Let us know what you think about the picks in the comments. But yeah, Ezeudu, I love the pick. I like that Joe Schoen said we have to fix the line, and 2 of our first 4 picks were offensive linemen, and 2 of those guys that can very well start, or one of them will start for sure on day one. And Ezeudu, I think, is a guy that can come in there because he was a high riser on draft boards. And he's very good at run blocking, needs some work in the pass block department, but he's a big dude, and the versatility that can play multiple positions so you can put him anywhere, tackle or guard, that definitely helps. And we also have some guys that can, swing around. Matt Parrott's still on the roster. We don't know what we're going to do with him, but we have options now, and that's something that we couldn't say in the past years. We had linemen, but not options. Now we have a starting lineman at every position, and we have options behind them, guys that we can say, okay, we can use this guy as a swing tackle. Izuda might not necessarily start, but if he's off the bench, you can bring him in at any point. We have options now. And Joe Schoen in one offseason got us a starting right guard, a starting center, our starting right tackle, and possibly our starting left guard. He needed to fill 4 positions on one line, and he has done that so far. So another tip of the cap to the GM. I really like the pick.
There's some things he needs to work on. He's very handsy. That kind of needs to improve a little bit. And he's kind of sometimes looks like he's got 2 left feet. So there's minor refinements that he needs to make in terms of his footwork and making sure that he doesn't get run over by defensive linemen, because that can happen. For me, Dylan Parham was the much more ready prospect, and he was selected at 90 by the Raiders. For me, Dylan Parham was by far and away, for me, the better, more ready prospect than Ezeudu. So you could argue that it was a bit of a reach. However, I didn't mind the pick at all, actually, to be honest. That was the one pick in day 2 where I was pretty happy with. I like Ezeudu. I like his versatile. I think David will be delighted to have a versatile guy that on a pinch can play outside tackle on occasion, but be more suited as a guard. And I do believe that he will be a starting guard beside Glowinski very, very soon. I think probably by the end of year 1, maybe certainly by year 2, he should be ready to go as a starter. There's a lot of things you got to like. I think if he refines his footwork a little bit, then he'll be just fine. He's a big guy, plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. You like that. There's a lot of things to like about that pick. Little bit of a reach again, but not a huge reach. I think you should be pretty satisfied with that.
No, it was definitely. I really do like the pick. I wouldn't. Yeah, maybe a bit of a reach, but nothing too crazy that you're going to get fans.
Giants certainly revamped this O-line the best they could. I thought Feliciano was a good signing. Agreed. I think Ezeudu actually has a chance to compete to make an impact right away. Yeah, we think we pretty much agree on that.
Absolutely agree with that. I like Ezeudu. I really do. I think that I said it. You don't need all 5 linemen to be all pro. If you have 2 or 3 really, really good linemen, or 2 really, really good ones, and then the rest can kind of be just good enough or average. I think we have 2. We're going to have 2 really, really good tackles. I think we have a great right guard. We're going to have a solid enough center, and Ezeudu, we can afford to have kind of a project on the line. So yeah. I think that the line is shaping up really well. Next pick in the 3rd round, though, this one definitely sparks some controversy and some conversation. Fear the Flot is how I'm going to say. Cordell Flott, cornerback out of LSU. If you want to use PFF as a reference, he did have an 84.8 coverage grade, which was the 4th best in the SEC.
Okay.
So not too bad as far as I'm concerned. I know that not a lot of people knew who this was. I'll be honest, I did not either. He's probably going to end up being a slot corner, which is perfect for his name, Flott in the slot. But Fear the Flot, I like the pick. Was he a reach? Probably. But we need cornerback depth, absolutely, because we know Bradbury's cut is on the horizon, which I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, because they said by the end of the week, and today is Sunday, so we'll see what happens there. Another comment here from TD. As long as you have 2 or 3 guys performing at a high enough level, it will make the other guys better. Exactly. I mean, we're not going to have the 07 line come back. That was 5 linemen that were just playing really, really well all at the same time. And I do think the performance of guys like Snee made Kareem McKenzie a little bit better, and Sean O'Hara may have helped out Rich Seibert in a way. But all 5 of those dudes were incredible. But yeah, we're going to have 2 great tackles, a really good right guard, a good enough center, and maybe the project at left guard. But I think with Thomas next to him, it'll be a much easier transition for Ezeudu going into the NFL.
So Flott, I think he's probably more of a slot guy. Again, he's wiry and undersized that you'd love for a corner. He's a little undersized for me. However, LSU have a very good record of firing out defensive backs like Skittles, so that have ended up being quite successful in the NFL. So he's obviously been well coached. And you're right about the coverage grade. That's very solid, man. He shows that means he can actually play on the outside. He's not really his best. I think he's probably more suited as a undersized slot guy. Was it my favorite pick? No. I mean, Draft Buzz had him rated as a 6th rounder. And I think he's definitely more of a guy that is going to need work, going to need some extra coaching, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, listen, there's nothing that's an automatic when you're drafting. You just got to go with who you love and who you think has upside. I think it's quite clear that Shane really liked guys that did well in the combines, and he was one of them. Certainly guys that came in and that tested well. He likes all those kind of guys. So this was one right there that kind of rose up on the old draft boards. Not quite sure about this one. I wouldn't have taken him in the either TD. I don't hate the pick. Would have taken him in the spot? No. Yeah, I agree with that. But it was certainly in need. Was there better corners that we should have targeted earlier? Yes. Because we're not really needing a slot guy. We've kind of got Holmes and all that stuff. I mean, we're going to be putting a lot of trust in Robinson on the outside now. It's a big ask for him to be a starting corner beside Dory Jackson. That's why I was mentioning Booth there, or even some other ones that we could go into. But listen, we really desperately needed a corner. We got one. This is the one I wanted. No, could we probably gotten him in day 3? Almost certainly, but certainly has some talent. He's fast, and see where we are with that one.
Yeah, I think when you look at the 3rd round and even further on into the draft, this is where GMs really can make their mark. And I will give Dave Gettleman a little bit of credit because he was solid. I won't say great. He was solid in some of his picks in the 3rd and 4th round, I'll say. But we saw with Jerry Reese, as he went later on into his career, he was just missing with so many of those picks in day 2 and 3. So this is where a GM can really make his mark, because it's easy to find a good player in the 1st round because those are 1st round talents. But it's really when you get to day 3 or round 3, round 4, if you're able to find a guy that can just start and be good enough, if Flott's just good enough, right? Because look at Darnay Holmes. No one really expected much out of him, and he had a really good rookie year, and he was fine last year. I'm not saying he's going to come out and be Bradbury or anything, but, just needing to be good enough. And if, again, I'm going to put the trust in the GM and Brandon Brown. I'm going to put the trust in the staff. I think if they like the guy, right now we have nothing to do as fans but to say, okay, let's see, go out there and play.
Developmental prospect, nothing wrong with that. They don't all need to be starting right off the bat.
Right.
So I see your point with that. And I think I can sort of see what you mean regarding Dave Gettleman. His approach was more best player available. He didn't really take massive reaches in day 1 or day 2 necessarily. He did try and go with the higher graded guys without taking massive risks. However, he missed on 90% of his picks. Let's be quite honest about it. Even in day 1, he missed. I mean, there's only a couple that I can think of at the top of my head that worked out. McKinney was an excellent pick in round 2. So what Shane's doing is a different approach. He's going with guys that he loved and that fits a specific need, plus some of the traits that he likes that he thinks he can develop. And I don't have a problem with that. So that's why, even though I'm coming across as being slightly critical on certain things, I like the fact that he has a set approach and that he's got traits in mind. He likes versatility. He likes speed. He likes things that will fit a modern NFL. And versatility is a key thing, and he likes guys that test well. So I think that's probably going to be a win in general with this draft approach. It shows that he's thinking outside the box a little bit, where Dave Gettleman was always going to focus on just kind of meat and potatoes. Joe Shane's now showing more of a modern vision on how to build a solid team. So, I don't have a problem with that approach at all. I think it's probably going to work out better, even if I had better players again at that position at 81. So Daniel Bellinger, round 4, pick 112, tight end, San Diego State. What do you think, bro?
Kevin Boss. I watched a lot of tape recently, and I was like, this is Kevin Boss. Like, the way he moves, the way he catches the ball, even I'm like, I see Kevin Boss in there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a blocker first. That's the most important thing, is we needed a blocking tight end. But he can catch the ball, and that's something we really couldn't say about our tight end the last few years, is they didn't really catch the ball very well. So I think pairing him up, he could very well be the tight end 2 on the depth chart behind Ricky Seals-Jones, which is another weapon that you're going to give to Daniel Jones. But now you have the blocker, and you kind of have that sure-handed target that can get you those short receptions, if you need a few yards. And he's a big dude as well, so he might be able to shed a couple of tackles, 6'6", so he might have that go up and get an ability in the red zone that we were hoping to see from Kyle Rudolph last year. But yeah, it's a 4th-round pick. You're kind of looking for guys that could come out and help you as early as possible, but also maybe a project. But Bellinger's he checks the boxes for when it comes to kind of your old school tight end, block well, catch it when it's thrown to you, short gains here and there. I know Giants fans are longing for the days of another Jeremy Shockey, but I don't know if we're going to get that. We're not getting it with Bellinger. But if he turns out to be Kevin Boss, Kevin Boss was just fine in 07 when he took over, and then 08 and further on until he went to Oakland. I like the pick, though. I really do.
Yeah, I like it too. I think this was the start of a day 3 win for us. Certainly area need, plus not a reach really at all. He was there's a lot of things that make you think that after Trey McBride, he's certainly in the conversation as the second best, third best tight end in the draft. Great blocker. San Diego State didn't really make use of him as an offensive catching tight end. He wasn't really used as a receiving tight end. He was more used as a blocker because that's more their system. But when asked to catch the ball, he caught pretty much everything. He's got a big frame. He's got big hands. He's got the intangibles that you can develop into a receiving tight end in the future. But most importantly, he's a big run blocker and tight end that's going to be great for us moving forward. I really like this pick. I think this was a smart pick. It was a nice combination of BPA plus need, which Joe Shane hit here. There's definitely some Kevin Boss things here. If you ask him to make the catch, I think he'll make the catch. He's also shown a proclivity of being able to go downfield a little bit. I think that was a really nice pick. But most importantly, we needed, because we got Ricky Seals-Jones, who's just primarily a receiving tight end, can't block at all. We can now balance that out with a really good run blocking tight end in Daniel Bellinger. So I think that was a good pick. Not a problem at all.
I think so too. 2 picks later, we took Dane Belton, safety out of Iowa.
Yep.
He had a pretty solid year in terms of picks in 2021. Had 5 interceptions, also had 7 passes defended. Another member of the secondary. Again, we did lose a couple of safeties in the offseason, as TD mentioned in the comments earlier. Logan Ryan, Jabril Peppers, and we're about to lose Bradbury. So Belton, I don't know where he'll be on the depth chart. Probably at first a special teams guy, but again, with the way Wink Martindale uses the secondary, it's possible he sees some playing time early on. I wasn't too thrilled. I'm not going to say maybe he has a chance to be like a sneaky good pick. kind of a depth pick as far as I'm concerned. You added to a position that was not necessarily a major need, but just to get some secondary help out there. Because after Love and McKinney, you really don't have too much safety depth. So
yeah,
Felton adds to that.
We needed a safety. There's no doubt about it. Was it the safety that I was really looking at on the draft board? No, I'm not going to pretend I know that much about him, but he is a playmaker and he's a tough tackler. I think he's probably going to be more of a developmental prospect again. But again, when you're getting down to the 1-1-4s, that's probably what you're looking at. You're just, again, looking at traits and you're looking at things that you can develop. And he's got that. I mean, listen, if you can get 5 interceptions, that's a really good sign for a safety. So he's certainly not someone that I'd be expecting anything more than a special teams guy off the bat. But you certainly add some depth in the room. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say reach. He was someone that kind of, from a couple of sources I watched, they viewed him as actually a possible free agent possibility prior to an excellent combine where he really climbed up the draft boards and then people were paying attention to him. So again, he tested well. So this seems to be a common theme, but he tackles well, which is good. Interceptions too. I don't hate the pick at all. I think that was a solid enough pick. I think it was okay. Again, better safeties available. I don't know, but there was better safeties that we could have drafted earlier. But certainly not an awful pick at all.
No, again, at this point, when you get to round 4 and later on, you're kind of drafting for depth and hope that maybe you find that hidden gem that people pass up on. And I think we got a couple of potential hidden gems in the late rounds here. Micah McFadden could be one of them, the linebacker out of Indiana.
Yeah. I really wanted Jaquan Brisker. I think we should have drafted Jaquan Brisker if we wanted a safety. I think he was the one that we should have probably gone. However, go back to McFadden.
No, he's out of Indiana, 12.5 sacks in his 4 years there. I think he might end up being more of an edge rusher for us, if anything, maybe kind of a blitzing linebacker if he does line up in the middle there. The other linebacker that we'll get to in a minute, I think he has more of a chance of being a starter in the middle linebacker position. But McFadden, if you're just looking for depth, because right now we don't know what Martinez is going to be for us next year coming back from that injury. We have Tay Crowder and not much else in the middle of our defense and our linebacking core. So again, another depth pick, but a guy that could add more pass rushing. And if he can cover at all, that's a plus. Again, we don't know what his role is going to be. I would say he probably will be special teams. Maybe he's that special teams gunner type guy that can just make those big hits, because our special teams has been pretty good for a little while. So you kind of just, at this point, again, find some depth. Maybe you find a hidden gem. But I do think McFadden's going to have a role on this team. At first, probably an extra blitzer, and then guy that's going to line up mostly on special teams.
I've actually got him rated higher than you do, man. I think that he is someone that is a sideline-to-sideline guy. He's relentless energy, and he's also shown traits in which he can rush the passer too. He's able to blow up things in the backfield, plus go sideline to sideline. I think he's going to be an elite special teamer / backup Mike. I think that there's things that you can develop where he could eventually even replace Blake Martinez down the line, even possibly be a starter in a couple of years' time. I think that there's a lot of things that you can work with. Wink Martindale loves guys like this, and we drafted one. This is a great pick for me. This is my favorite pick in day 3. My favorite pick in day 2 as well, over combined. I just think that this guy has the kind of intangibles that I'm excited about. He's a captain, I believe, in his school, and he's just got that leadership thing that you like. And sideline to sideline pass rush guy. So you could stick him as an outside linebacker. He could even possibly start beside Blake Martinez at times towards the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see how things shake out, but I think this was a great pick for the Giants.
I think it was a good pick as well. I mean, again, I just don't know what we're getting out of Blake Martinez, to say that he's going to be the starter, because we don't know if Blake's going to be ready for week 1. It's possible, but we'll have to wait and see. But again, I think we got lucky with Tay Crowder being the player that he was, because he was the last pick in the draft, ended up being our leading tackler last year. That probably wouldn't have been the case if Martinez was healthy, but Crowder certainly did have a really big role last year. But again, you're adding more high energy, high level players, guys that are just going to go out there and ball out and give it their all, high energy guys. And that's exactly what you want for Wink Martindale's defense. You got guys flying all over the place, blitzing from any different direction. Yeah. That's what Wink Martindale is going to do. So another good pick. I mean, again, it's round 5. You're not looking for a guy that's going to take you to the promised land here, but you're just kind of looking to add some depth and again, in a position of need, and hope that you find something that's going to be a good player. And I think Micah McFadden, even if he's a special teamer for year 1 and plays some, blitzing packages down the line, he certainly can be a starter year 2, year 3, alongside Tay Crowder, and maybe even the guy we'll get to in a couple of moments here, because next up on the list is a big boy, defensive tackle DJ Davidson, standing at 6'5", 325 pounds. Stick him in the middle of that defensive line from time to time and eat up some blocks, because he's a big boy. And I think that's all he's going to be there to do.
Yep.
Not going to get to the quarterback a ton. He'll get some tackles in the run game. Again, depth piece, but that's a big dude. And that's what we were hoping to get from Danny Shelton last year, and we didn't. So if he can just be better than that, which is not that hard to do, because Danny Shelton was bad last year, another good pick.
He's purely a specialist, 2-down defensive tackle. He's just purely a run stuffer. But but that's absolutely fine. We needed that. We've lost a lot of inside tackle depth. So we got that. Developmental guy, but he's a giant of a human being. I like that. He's a huge monster. He'll be asked just to stuff the run. Fine. I don't think he's going to give you too much pass rush, but he's certainly a guy that if he can get free, and he's going to, the quarterback will need to be scraped off the floor with the size of the man. He is a giant of a human being and an absolute colossus. And you want that? You want that in your football team. You want giant of a human being. So I have no problem with it. Is he the most technically gifted? No, but we don't need that where we drafted him. I think he's fine. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it was actually pretty solid. And we'll see how he is. All you're asking him to do is stuff the run. He will stuff the run. You'll struggle to get past him with his size.
Stuff the run. That's really all you can say. Big boy. Just put him in the middle of that line and let the rest of those guys go to work. He's going to eat up some blocks, because, again, even if he's not going to get to the quarterback, you're going to want to look. You're going to focus on him, because that's a big dude. He's going to be able to push some guys around. So, a 5th round pick, you're taking really no risks at this point. Just see what you got in the player. I have no problem with it. And the same case goes for Marcus McKethan, offensive guard out of UNC. Giants really like those UNC offensive linemen, because we took 2 of them.
That's crazy.
They really like them.
I'm just annoyed that I spent all my time scouting like the big schools and all the playoff games and things like that, going, all right, this lineman looks really good. No. We should have just focused on Carolina. That would have just been the easiest bet.
We know what Joe Shane was watching this college football season, because he took 2 of their offensive linemen. But again, not like Izzudu here. I don't think he's going to really – he's not going to be in line for a starting position. Maybe he has a good camp and puts him in that conversation. But another depth piece. Again, when I keep saying it, but when you get to this point in the draft, you're not looking for everybody to be Tom Brady. That late round pick that's going to become the stud. if we get anything out of him, Shane Lemieux was a 5th-round pick. He ended up being okay for us his rookie year, but got hurt. So we'll see. It's a wait-and-see game with McKethan.
I don't love it. We've got far
Yeah.
too many guards at this point. Like, did we really need another one?
Exactly. Yeah, because we took 3 offensive linemen in total in this draft, and even when we took Izzudu, I was a little surprised. I'm like, well, did we really need another offensive guard from the same school? So I'm not too high.
Let's not forget that 2 drafts ago, our entire draft was linemen as well. So 2 drafts later, we now have to go another draft of like half the draft being linemen. I think it was a little bit overkill. I mean, we do have a lot of strength now. That's great. But with the amount of needs that we have, especially defensive back and running back, let's not forget we only really have 2 running backs on the roster at the moment that you can trust, but certainly not trust in terms of health. Very surprised we didn't go running back at all in this draft. But we did get one in UDFA, which we'll obviously get into in a second. But I would have gone running back there 100%. I don't really get this at all, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but this is the pick that I'm actually really excited about here is the 6th-round pick, our last pick in the draft, Darian Beavers, linebacker out of Cincinnati. Tackling machine, and he's good in coverage. In 700 coverage snaps since 2019, he has not allowed a touchdown. So if you're looking for a good coverage linebacker, Darian Beavers gives you that. And I think in the 6th round, to find a guy that can tackle, he had 3 sacks last year for Cincinnati. He had an interception. And like I said, he's good in coverage. This could be the Blake Martinez replacement. And I do think that McFadden will have a spot on this team for sure. And there's a possibility that, these two are starting next to each other in a couple of years, maybe even next year, depending on what happens with Tay Crowder. But I really do like this pick in Darian Beavers. I think he's going to end up being a real steal this late in the draft.
He was rated in 3rd round. We got him in the 6th round. Crazy that he's dropped. I think it's basically because he doesn't have prototypical size necessarily. That was the only reason why he dropped, but he's got everything else. He is a steal. Absolute steal in the 6th round. He was easily a mid-round guy. So where we got him, it's a no-brainer. So yeah, I'm excited by this pick too.
And that wraps up the draft class in terms of the 1 through 6 round picks. You want to give it a grade overall? Do you agree with what most of the media is saying, or
most of the media kind of had it A minus. I'd give it a B plus, B plus, strong B, B plus if you really push me. Because I'm feeling positive today about the Giants, I'll give it a B plus. What about you?
No, I think an A minus is pretty fair. But there were some picks that I was kind of like, you probably didn't need to go with 2 middle linebackers, even though you didn't definitely need to take the extra guard. And you could have maybe attacked running back a little bit. But I do think, look, the players that we got, I think Beavers is a steal. I think Davidson in his role is going to be just fine. I like McFadden a lot. I really am I came around quickly to the Wan'Dale Robinson pick. I like the Izzudu. And I think I'm higher on Flott than most people are. I don't know why, but I think that overall we had a really, really solid draft, and I think an A minus is a good grade. I'm going to give it an A minus. Maybe I'm just sipping the Kool-Aid of Joe Schoen because he hasn't given me a reason not to so far. I like everything he's done, but I think he hit a home run, got some extra picks, got some good value with those extra picks in the 4th and 5th round. So A minus. I'm going with the A minus for the draft grade.
And we also went pretty heavy in the free agents, in the undrafted free agents pool. So there's a couple of guys that could get a spot. First of all, Jashaun Corbin of Florida State.
Yes.
I'm most excited about him because he had a 75-yard touchdown against Notre Dame in the bowl game last year. He's able to do a bit of everything. He can catch. He's got pretty reliable hands. Doesn't have elite speed, but enough speed. And he showed breakaway ability and decent feet. There's a couple of guys that actually viewed him as a sleeper pick. And I don't think anyone would have had him as a UDFA. So that's someone I'm paying attention to because I don't love our running back room. Well, we should have drafted a running back. I don't understand why we didn't. That's my biggest criticism from the draft. That's why I'm not giving it an A. But I'm quite excited by Corbin. Have you seen anything about him that you like?
I mean, I haven't really checked too much on our undrafted free agents. There were a couple of guys that I saw, like Evans out of LSU.
Yeah.
I paid attention to the secondary guys. I'm like, how many guys are we going to add from the undrafted free agent department into the secondary? And I think we got 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at here's the list. Evans, cornerback, Yusef Corker out of Kentucky, Trenton Thompson, Zion Gilbert,
Austin Allen, 6'8" tight end from Nebraska.
So the Giants were pretty heavy in this undrafted free agent list.
Austin Allen apparently caught 38 passes for 602 yards in 2021 and was named the Big Ten Conference tight end of the year. So that's a sleeper possibility because there were some guys that were saying that we should probably draft 2 tight ends this draft. It was that much of a need. So this guy could be someone. So maybe we pay attention to Austin Allen. Jeremiah Hall from Oklahoma is another tight end, but also plays as a hybrid fullback. He's a big dude. Again, that's someone that we kind of need a fullback. We don't really necessarily have one on the roster. So he's someone that could possibly get a role in the Giants. And then there's Jashawn Corbin. Certainly don't know too much about Corbin, but there's some guys that are higher on him than others. Not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that he could fill a role because I don't really love our running back room outside of Saquon and Barkley. Yeah, we definitely did depth. Would you have gone running back in the draft?
I would have. I mean, I know they wanted Cook. That was a guy they were high on. Once he was taken, I think at that point the Giants kind of pivoted and just went with other positions of need, and they were probably going to attack that because again they're banking everything on Saquon being 100% this year, and the Breida signing as well behind him. Who knows what we get out of Gary Brightwell if he's even still on the roster? I mean, you needed running back depth. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go there even in the 5th round. Probably could have gone that route instead of taking the second guard. But you get it here in the undrafted room, and there's always the potential that a veteran becomes available on the market that can sign for cheap just to get another experienced body in camp and on the depth chart. So, I mean, again, these are undrafted free agents. You're not looking for too much. You're hoping that somebody can be what Victor Cruz was for us.
Yeah.
If that is Corbin, that'd be great. If it's one of the cornerbacks as well, because we need as much help there as we can get. I mean, just it's a wait and see approach as it always is. Maybe some of these guys, maybe 1 or 2 of them make the roster. It's a pretty big class of undrafted free agents, which is something that we don't really do a lot. So we'll see. I mean, they took another lineman, few defensive linemen in this undrafted class as well. Truesdale, Hinton, Ellis, and that's a pretty – they're taking some big boys. We'll see what happens.
I mean, they were saying about Corbin, NFL.com kind of has him as his practice squad, bottom special teamer kind of guy. PFF views him as, more of a developmental guy. Apparently, he doesn't have the kind of speed that's going to, put him ahead of anybody else necessarily, but he has some traits that you could like moving forward. So I'm going to keep an eye on him. 1 year of productivity, so we'll see what they can maybe do with him. But maybe there's other running backs that we could maybe target in free agency. Is Sonny Michel? I don't think Sonny Michel's been picked up yet. we could maybe look at him once we free up the money from Bradbury.
Yeah.
But we'll also need another corner.
Yeah, maybe one of those undrafted guys turns out to be something that can fill at the bottom of the depth chart. Because I think right now, when Bradbury gets cut, you have Jackson, Robinson, Holmes, Flott. It's possible that Belton could play a little corner, and also Aaron Robinson could play a little safety. So maybe Julian Love plays a little cornerback this year as well. So
I think we'll be hitting free agency and looking
Yeah.
for veteran free agents that can come in. I mean, remember, it's a long off season. It's not just right now. I mean, there's going to be post-June cuts, and then there's going to be inevitable roster cuts in August, where there'll be some veterans that are very, very good that just maybe have been pushed aside due to cap restraints or preferring to go younger. That might free up some guys. And because of the waiver situation, I think we have a high priority. I believe 5th in the priority of waivers, so that we're going to get a good player available if one is cut in August. So there'll be plenty of opportunities, but for me, not really addressed properly in this draft, which kind of maybe lowers the grade for me. Was they didn't get a coverage corner that I really wanted, didn't get a running back prospect, but that's really it. So I think we should be attacking that in veteran free agency. But considering we managed to fix the trenches in many respects, that's a win for me. I think this has been a really good draft. Really excited. I love listening to Joe Schoen speak. Everything he speaks about, I'm just very confident, and I just know that he's just locked in and he knows exactly what he's doing, which is terrific. Because every time I heard Gettleman speak, I wanted to reach in and throttle him over the computer. The guy was a pretentious, arrogant know-it-all who thought he was better than everybody else, and in fact was the worst general manager possibly in NFL history. So it was without question very refreshing to hear Joe Schoen speak. Guy is just very humble, hardworking, and it's exciting moving forward. Big Blue in the Bronx, my man. Alex, how you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
What are your thoughts on the draft? You happy?
Yeah, let us know what you think about the Giants draft class there, Alex. I'm assuming it's Alex and not Luca, because I know Luca is
well, he's a Jet fan, so
yeah, he's
probably not going to be there.
he's got a questionable.
I felt for Alex, man. He went to a Jet party. He went to a Jet draft party, man.
Draft party.
He got drowned out when Kayvon Thibodeau was picked, and he was like, "Yeah, let's go." And he was like, "Oh, boy." There were guys that effing and swearing at him. That's a tough dude. I wish I was right beside him. I'd have helped him out a little bit.
Jets fans aren't they're not scary. Everyone thinks they're Fireman Fred or whatever his name is with the stupid hat on. And I don't know. Jets fans, they're a different breed.
I know. We got Gabagool Rob here, man. He takes no shit. He'll defend our Giant fan honor.
Next time you go to a Jet draft party, bring some backup. You got cousin Donald over there in Scotland, and we'll come back you up there, back the Blue. Yeah, let us know about what your thoughts are with the draft. But I think overall thoughts, I really don't have much anything to complain about. Maybe take a running back instead of the extra guard, but that's about it. I mean, I'm just gonna give Joe Schoen the credit, the benefit of the doubt. I like our staff a lot, and I'm just excited to see what they do. And I'm also very, very happy that Joe Schoen put Pat Leonard in his place, because, God, I can't stand that dude. Oh, let's see what Alex said here. Watch some film on all the picks. My least favorite turned into Dane Belton. Late round favorite is Micah McFadden, solid B. Okay, so I mean, you're pretty much on par with Donald there with your grade. I gave it the A- that most people are. I really do like it. I agree, though, on Belton. That was the pick I was kind of like, we'll wait and see, because he had 5 picks, but he was also kind of shaky in other departments. But my sleeper pick, my big late round steal was Beavers. I think he's going to be really, really good. But I think you and Donald are on the same wavelength with McFadden there.
Yeah, I like McFadden a lot. I was excited when he was selected. We were doing a live cast with Alex, and when that pick went through, I was really pleased with that one, and Bellinger as well. I think Bellinger's grown on me since the draft even more. I was looking at other tight ends like Kolar, but the more I read about Bellinger, I think Bellinger might be as good in many respects. But I have to also give a shout out. Is there any other teams just before we wrap up? Any other teams that blew you away in the draft process?
I know I just ripped on their fans a little bit there, but the Jets had a heck of a draft. The Ravens had a good draft. They always seem to have good drafts. It'd probably be the Jets and Ravens if I'm not going to say us. I think they had some really good picks. The Jets needed to, man. Like, they're in a position similar to us where they just need everything to kind of click because they're going through that rebuild phase. So the New York teams, I think, really hit it out of the park. It's been a pretty good about month now for New York sports in terms of baseball and football. The baseball teams are both playing well. The football teams had good drafts, and fan bases there are excited. Can't say the same for the NBA.
I mean, look at the Ravens, man. Tyler Linderbaum, 25, crazy steal. Hamilton at 14. How did Hamilton drop to 14? Unbelievable. People were talking about him being possibly the best, one of the best players in the entire draft. That's just to start with. Dan Ojabo, who I loved Ojabo. Travis Jones, big dude like him. Daniel Falele, one of the better tackles outside of the big three. I was talking about Kolar, and I was talking about Isaiah Likely, Demarion Williams, Tyler Beatty. All the guys. So I was like, this is like a wet dream of for the Ravens. I mean, it's an absolute beautiful draft. Also want to give a shout out to the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs had an excellent draft. Really impressed with what the Chiefs did. They obviously got a lot of the guys that I love. They also desperately needed some wide receiver help, and they managed to get that. They got that in Sky Moore, got Trent McDuffie, got George Karlaftis, got Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, who I loved Leo Chenal coming into the draft process, Josh Williams, Darren Kennard, good player. They had a really good draft too. But yeah, I mean, for once, as a Giant fan, I look across at the other team in New York / New Jersey. The Jets had a very, 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 very good draft. I mean, they got steals all the way up and down the draft board. They did an excellent job. So, a shout out to them, shout out to the Chiefs, shout out to the Ravens. I think they did great. And I think after that, I think the Giants were right there.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for the Jets getting 3 really, really good picks in the first round, I would say we had the best day one. But it's really neck and neck there because the Jets got some really good players on day one.
I think we got the best day one. I'm confident we got the best day one.
I'm gonna say it's us, of course, because I'm gonna.
No, it's not just about because we're Giant fans. I honestly view the fact that we got those 2 guys. I think Evan Neal's the best offensive tackle in the draft board. He had basically there's no weaknesses there. He was the number 1 tackle on the board. And we got the number 1 guy who, let's not forget that going into the new year, the consensus number 1 overall pick was going to be Kayvon Thibodeau. For some reason, he managed to get all the way down to 5. So the Giants got a steal here. So let's end that on a positive note. I do genuinely believe that we got the 2 best players in the draft.
No, I agree.
And somehow managed to get him at 5 and 7. So it's an A+ day 1, and then you're splitting hairs at day 2 and day 3 in terms of everything else. So I think that was overall.
No, overall, the Giants draft. Overall, phenomenal draft, and I'm really excited to see what these guys do. I think we're looking at, in terms of our first 5 or 6, even our first 6 picks, you're looking at guys that can all potentially start right out of the gate for us. I mean, we know Thibodeau's starting. You know Neal's starting. Robinson's going to be on the field a lot. Izzudu could start. You kind of have to have Cordell Flott be in there because of our lack of depth in the cornerback position. And Bellinger's probably going to be right there beside Ricky Seals-Jones. So, yeah, you're looking at a lot of potential starters there in your first few picks. So I think that's definitely a good sign for a rebuilding team. Because, again, this is a rebuilding process.
Yeah. Also, a little quick thing about Kayvon Thibodeaux is listening to the Giants Insider podcast, and Chris Bisignano, I do recommend guys listen to that. He is an expert. He did say that in the interview process, Kayvon Thibodeaux blew them away in their interviews. Very smart guy. Obviously, big personality. For some reason, that was viewed as a problem. Look at Michael Strahan. I mean, he was a big personality. He ended up being the hardest working, one of the greatest edges in the history of the New York Football Giants. I think Thibodeaux will be right there after him. I think he's going to be just there. Big personality, hard worker. But what he said in the interview process is his approach to winning. And he said that what he does is in the fourth quarter, in crunch time, he looks for the weaknesses of that tackle. He's now had 3 full quarters or working out the weaknesses of the opposition tackle, and then he uses ways in which to beat him in order to get to the quarterback and wreak havoc in crunch time. That answer blew the Giants away. So they somehow managing to get the talk out there that his interview is terrible was obviously very, very smart from our main man Shane, because he managed to get him to drop down to 5 and pick him, because his interview process was terrific. So there's a little bit of insider stuff there for Giant fans. I think you guys should be very, very excited to get Kayvon Thibodeaux. And
absolutely,
I've never gotten a jersey after Eli Manning. I probably won't, because Eli's my boy and he's a Hall of Famer. But if I was to get a Giant jersey, I would get number 5 Kayvon Thibodeaux.
That's if he gets the number. I don't know if Graham knows. He's got that thing on a freaking stranglehold, but we'll see if money talks. Because I know Peppers was trying to get it from him last year. But I think that's a good note to end it on. We went over an hour here discussing the draft. We both are in agreement. The Giants had a really, really good draft.
Yeah.
And we're excited to see what happens next. I'm not excited to see James Bradbury get cut, but it's the inevitable. Still surprised it has not happened yet. If it did, I didn't see it. Maybe they're working out an extension. Who knows? But we'll wait and see on that.
Don't think so.
He's getting cut.
Big thank you to our viewers there who put their comments in and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. If guys like and subscribe and give us your comments, really, really appreciate it. Keep us going. So I do big thank you there.
Absolutely. Thumbs up, notification bell, subscribe button, hit all those things, and be sure to check us out on the Twitters. I'll put in the description. You just go down the description. You can find us on Twitter. You know how it is at this point. It's the same thing after every video, but you got to do the outro. And on that note, we're going to leave you and with a big Let's Go Giants and a peace out. Y'all have a good day.
Yo.